Hello, I am back with video number 2. And in this video, I'm just going to look at just getting started with some Vienna Symphonic Library uh, sounds, or just even a basic one in connection with Finale. So what I'm going to do is, this is the same file I made before, and you'll notice if I push play right now, I get my little Garriton sound. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch now the sound. So I'm going to go into my score manager. Actually, I'm going to just Command K that. And instead of Garriton Personal Orchestra, what I'm going to select now is Vienna Ensemble. Now, I have Vienna Ensemble Pro, which I recommend if you can upgrade to that at some point. I don't have a lot of experience with Vienna Ensemble, but I think I should be able to do this. Let's see what happens. I'm going to load. I'm going to switch to Vienna Ensemble, and it's going to think about it. And then what I need to do is I need to edit player. And what this is going to do is this is going to open Vienna Ensemble in server mode, and it says that I'm connected. And what I want to look for now, down here, I see Vienna Ensemble over here. I don't want to drag it away. And this is what's going to host all of my Vienna Symphonic Library instruments. And what's great about this is you can do all your mixing, including effects, including everything, within Vienna Ensemble rather than within Finale. And there are much better mixing capabilities here. But we'll look at that later. What I want to do right now is I'm going to add an instance of Vienna Instruments. And again, this is Vienna Instruments Pro, which I really strongly recommend, even if only to use with the Vienna Special Edition libraries. That's great. But I'm going to just add a new channel of Vienna Instruments. Hopefully this works. There it is. Okay, here it is, and here's how I just added another one by mistake, but here it is. I'm going to call this, let's name this violin, and here it is. Okay, now I have a blank instrument here, and I am not actually going to start with one of the already made matrix patches. I much prefer using my own and understanding how these things work. So what I'm going to do is here, this is the beginning of a matrix. And with Vienna Instruments, the way this works is that you can create these matrices that have an x-axis, and that's kind of left to right. So this is a matrix with only an x-axis, and that has 7 slots. And then you can also add a y-axis, and this is very, very confusing at first and incredibly wonderful and powerful later on. But what I'm going to do for right now and for this video is to ignore the y-axis. Don't even worry about it. I'm just going to lower this to 7 slots, and we'll see how many slots I'm going to use. And I'm going to go into my patches. I'm going to choose Special Edition patches. I'm going to go choose solo strings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a violin matrix here. And I am going to, the way it works is any of these things can be highlighted and dragged to any of these slots. Right? So this is my legato slot. I'm going to drag it over to A1. Right? And this is usually what I do. And there it is, it's loading. And then I am going to drag sustain, which is different in Vienna Instruments than legato. Legato actually has sampled note connections between different notes. So you want to use that. I'm going to put sustain in number 2. And I'm going to put staccato in number 3. And I'm going to put, actually, you know what? I'm going to move staccato over, and the way I do that is if I hold down on a Mac, I'm sure there's a PC equivalent, but on a Mac, if I hold down Option while I drag this, I will switch it with whatever was there. I'm going to put staccato there. I'm going to put détaché. We'll talk about how Finale kind of distinguishes between these things. Détaché. And right now, I'm going to stick just to my basic samples here. I'm going to take pizzicato and put it in number 5. And what else? Let's do tremolo right now and put that in number 6. And let's say that's it. Those are going to be the sounds that I'm going to use right now. Is there anything else I want to use? I'm going to leave these other ones. We'll get back to them and talk about them later. But I want a very simple matrix. Okay, and there you can hear the different sounds. Here's the various sounds. And one thing to note is that let's see. I'm going to put on right now a little algorithmic reverb. I'll talk about reverb later. I'll put on a little algorithmic reverb just so it's not totally dry. We can do a lot better than that, and that's a little long. I'm going to bring it down to like 1.8. We can do a lot better by using third-party reverbs, which I'll talk about in another tutorial. But right now, you see, I've got these different patches, but as of now, I have no way to key switch between them because I have not set up any key switches. So the great thing about Vienna instruments is you can choose what you want the key switches to be. So for X, and it doesn't have to be actual key switches. You can control with the controller, which I'll talk about later. You could use pitch wheels, speed, velocity, none. I'm going to choose key switch. And key switch automatically defaults to C1, C sharp 1, D1, D sharp 1, E1, F1. And if you look down here, you can see my key switches. And what I am going to do actually is I'm going to move these down by dragging. I'm going to click this down and drag it down, holding the button down, dragging my mouse down until it gets to C0. All right, and C0, and then I need to do one more kind of strange thing. I like to use C0 for my key switches. You see this checkered little symbol means that I have 2 key switches assigned to this note, which is not good. The other one is here, and it's the matrix key switch. We're not going to use that forever, so I'm going to drag this out of the way. Don't worry about why we do this. We're just going to get this out of the way for now. It's down there. It's not going to be in the way. Here are my key switches, and you'll notice when I push these notes, the sound changes. And if I push the D sharp, staccato. Right? If I move to E over here, we get to pitch. Okay, great. And I have this set up now to work. And what I might do is I'm going to I'm going to click on Matrix. And I can save this matrix. I'm going to save it as VSL SE violin demo and save. All right, and now whenever I want to recall this, and if I make subsequent changes, I can save it again. I'm going to now go back into Finale for a moment, and I'll try to set this up so you can see both, or maybe you can't. Let's get out of here. What I need to do next, in order for this to work properly, is I am going to go into Finale, and I'm going to completely change my human playback settings. Right, so I'm going to go into let's make sure, are we still recording? We're still recording. That's very exciting. We're going to go into human playback preferences. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, what I want to do is to create new preferences. So let's see, what's the best way to do this? What I want to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to duplicate. All right. This is now default plus, because I don't have, there's no option to create new here. And in this, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to say VSL SE demo HP. You can call it whatever you want. This is just so I know it's not mine. And now what I'm going to do is going to seem radical to you, but I'm actually going to get rid of everything. I'm going to delete and delete and delete all of these folders, right? And it's really important that I switched. I'm not deleting it in the default, but I'm going to delete this, which even though might be useful here, not what we're going to use. And I'm going to delete this. I want everything gone because I'm going to be using VSL instruments for this. And I'm going to create one new folder. I'm going to call it strings. I'm going to call this VSL SE strings. You can call it whatever you want. And even though right now I'm only dealing with violin, I'm going to call it SE strings because maybe these same key switches are going to be in play. And looking back at Vienna instruments here, you'll see that my situation is that I've got 6 different techniques, and I want to be able to switch between them in Finale. Now, here's a word to the wise. C0 is not necessarily the same as C0 in Finale's system. Finale defaults in their notation patches to key switches that are below the keyboard. C0 generally corresponds to the lowest C. In VSL's parlance, it's the lowest C on the piano keyboard. And this, it's important to know, is note 12 on Finale's setup. So all C's, all pitch class C's, depending on the octave, are multiples of 12. The next octave up would be 24, etc. But I know that C0 is 12, C sharp is 13, D is 14, etc. All right, I hope you're with me so far. So now I'm going to go in here and I am going to hit the drop down and I'm going to create one. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create 1, 2, 3. You can do this one at a time. Let's do it one at a time. I'm going to create a new technique and I'm going to go in order. So the first technique I need to choose is legato. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to choose from this drop down list strings. I'm going to choose legato and I'm going to choose action 1. It's the only one I'm worried about right now is key switch. And I'm going to set this to key switch 12. Okay, and I'm going to go in here and I don't think it really matters what this is. Strings, legato. Okay, and when I'm in here, I'll then click enter. That sort of locks it in. I'm going to create another new technique. It goes right below it. I'm going to set this one for strings. This is now going to be sustain, standard sustain. I'm going to call this key switch, and this is the next note up. You can see here it's C sharp 0. That translates to 13. All right, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to say strings, sustain. Okay, and I'm going to do it a few more times. Now I'm going to do new technique. We're going to go to strings. The next one that I have is détaché, and how Finale decides between sustain and détaché is complicated, probably for another tutorial, and I'm still just getting my head around it, but we're going to choose key switch 14. We're going to call this strings détaché. I don't know how to do the accent in here, so hit return just to lock that in. New technique. The next one is going to be staccato. Strings, strings, staccato. By the way, you notice I just made the name before I added the technique. It's important to make sure I switch this to strings. That's very important. Again, we'll talk about that later. I want to find staccato, and I'm going to say key switch, and we're going to say it's 15, right? And again, I'm just going in sequence, right? So I'm sorry, this is 12, 13, 14, 15. Pitch is going to be 16. So let's do new technique again. Strings, we'll do pits. And here I'm going to flip this to strings. I'm going to make this be pizzicato. I'm going to say key switch, and this is 16. And I need to, okay, now I don't need to hit return. It's there. Okay, and we're going to do, we've got one more. We've got one more for now, right? New technique, and this is going to be, I'm going to choose strings. Doesn't matter which I do first, right? This is going to be tremolo, and tremolo is sampled. I don't want triggered, I want sampled, because triggered is some kind of human playback facsimile of a tremolo, which is not what we want, and this is going to be 17. Okay, this is going to be 17. I'm going to go in. I'm going to call this strings tremolo, right, and hit return. Okay, now these are my only human playback preferences in Play, and I'm going to click. I can click apply, or if you hit OK, that's fine. Now you see this is it. This is my only folder. I click OK, and now what I want to do first is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create some. Let's see. I'm going to create like a slur and then 2 unslurred notes. I'll make this a little bigger here, right? And then maybe I'm going to create 2 staccato notes, right? And then let's actually add, can I add a couple more? Yeah, let's add, I don't care what notes they are. I'm going to add here pits, okay? That should be pits. Okay, and then let's add here, even though I wouldn't probably write this like this because I'm not giving them much time to change. Here I'm going to say tremolo, right? I'm just going to use that sign. I haven't programmed that. That's part of human playback that it knows. And here I'll put, let's see, can I just get, it's not working for me right now. Why not? Let's see what's going on. There we go. I just wanted to put arco here. And it's not letting me do it. Maybe somehow my, where did it go? Oh, I have it as a, oh, I forgot. Okay. All right, so there it is. Now, what I would hope, if this worked correctly, is when I push play, you'll actually see Vienna instruments moving through the different patches here. Let's see if it works. Oh, hooray. It worked. Okay. So, I'm going to close just with a couple of thoughts about this. The one thing is I have found it to be really, really useful to try to have all of my key switches be the same across all of my instruments, and I tend to find that C0 is a pretty good place for them to be. I think that this gets me below the range of most of the instruments I'm going to use. And there are some real advantages to having kind of a systematic approach to building your matrix. For me, I generally do legato, sustain, détaché, staccato, pizzicato, tremolo. I have sometimes some other ones like trills you could add in here, and there is a place in human playback to do. I will talk in subsequent videos about ways of switching to other kinds of articulations like snap pizzicato or muted sustains or ponticello, and even going between like ponticello and normal. It's all possible in Vienna Instruments, which is a wonderful sample player. Vienna Instruments Pro has a couple of features that are also just really outstanding, but this is a great place to start. I'm hopeful that that was helpful. I know this video is already getting long, so I'm going to cut it off there. More from me soon, including a discussion of how to handle volume, which is complicated and essential to getting your playback to work. All right, enjoy.